RMC, or Rocky Mountain Construction, is known for transforming old wooden roller coasters into just these amazing state-of-the-art creations. And every time we ride a new one, it gets us thinking about the rides we wish would receive that treatment.
I was gonna say, yeah, sometimes we ride a ride that is not RMC'd and we're like, wow, I wish it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're gonna be looking at 10 wooden roller coasters around the world that we would love to see receive the RMC treatment. And there's definitely some variety on here.
Yeah, so we have stuff from kind of, I would say, all over the world, really. And there are definitely degrees to, like, how much this ride needs to be done. Now, that can be because the ride is so awful that it just shouldn't even continue to exist as a wooden roller coaster. And we also look at it from the angle of how well does this fit into the park? You know, like, how badly does this park need a brand new Rocky Mountain Construction roller coaster?
And we're kicking things off with a ride at Michigan's Adventure. And I think that this is primarily because we really want to see this park get something brand new, but I actually think that Wolverine Wildcat would be a pretty good RMC.
So Shivering Timbers obviously does not need to be touched. It's a great ride from what we hear.
Wouldn't know.
Anyway, Wolverine Wildcat, however, did just get some Titan track. So it's not looking likely, but This is more of like a wish list than it is like a reality list. I think that that would really put this park back on the map because right now it doesn't have really anything besides Shivering Timbers going for it.
Yeah, exactly. And Wolverine Wildcat was not memorable at all. We got off that thing and it was like, wow, that was like bland and it wasn't really comfortable. Nothing about it stood out. It's one of those rides that is one and done and then you don't really ever think about it again.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm trying to imagine it with the Titan track. Like, I'm sure it's a bit smoother, but you can't, like, just throw Titan track on it and not change the profiling and expect it to become like a wow kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And if you put RMC iBox track on this thing and redid some of these elements, you could turn this into a pretty dang good ride.
Oh yeah, it'd be like more of like a small to like mid-size, but it'd be really good.
Yeah.
Next one is something, again, that I don't really foresee happening. However, I feel like it is probably one of the most talked about as a potential option for an RMC conversion, and that's Roar at Six Flags America.
Yeah, and I think everyone talks about this because they already RMC'd the other Roar that was at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. And actually, I feel like if you talk to people who rode both of them, most people would say that the Six Flags America one was actually worse. But Discovery Kingdom's got it. I mean, that one at least had like the Millennium Flyer trains, and Roar at Six Flags America is still running the PTCs. It gets retracked every so often, and
I don't think it's as bad as people talk about it.
It fluctuates, you know? I mean, I know that's the nature with like most wooden roller coasters. It's like depending on when you rode it, you know, sometimes it can be worse than others. But like the last time we did it, it definitely wasn't that bad. But I have also ridden this when it is pretty bad. It's just, man, can you imagine Six Flags America with an RMC?
Oh, well, yeah, that park kind of deserves something.
They do. Like, the roller coasters that they've been receiving are hand-me-downs. You know, if you're not going to give them a new ground-up coaster, like, transforming this attraction into something, like, awesome would be so good. And, like, RMC has also come a long ways since they did Joker. I have no doubt that this would not be a clone of Joker. It would have its own unique flair to it. And I imagine it'd be a lot better than Joker. At the number 8 spot, we have a ride that neither of us have ridden, and it's at a park that neither of us have been to. However, if you look at videos of Magnus Colossus at Terra Mítica in Spain, you know why it's on this list. This ride looks like absolute trash.
But it's in like such a cool setting and it's huge.
Yeah, the potential is through the roof. The problem is, I don't think this park can afford it. They haven't done anything in a long time, which is a shame because it looks super cool and it's standing but not operating. This ride isn't even running.
I feel like that would be an awesome choice, and I think the people of Spain would be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and they haven't received like a new investment in a while. Like this would just absolutely draw in coaster enthusiasts and people from all over wanting to experience this thing.
Well, and there's no RMCs really close to that area at all.
No, not at all. I know when people talk about an RMC in Spain, I feel like there's a couple other rides that usually come up, but I think that this would be a really, really good RMC.
So next on the list is in a country that I am extremely qualified to talk about, and that's Jupiter, which is a wooden roller coaster, one of the only wooden roller coasters in Japan.
So this is at Kijimokogen. It's on the southern part of Japan, about 9.5 hours away from Nagashima Spotland. So yes, we know that there's already an RMC in Japan, but this is not at all close by.
Well, that's like saying, okay, we have Twisted Timber, so we don't need Iron Gwazi. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Different
they're
market.
in the same country, right? It's like 10 hours apart. Who needs it?
Well, what's funny is Hakuge replaced White Cyclone, which was an Intamin Wind roller coaster. That's exactly what this is. And we have over 5,000 feet of track to work with.
That's a big girl.
You could do a lot with that. And this is interesting because we haven't experienced this, so we can't really say if it's a good ride or not. I've heard it's solid for sure, but you can't help but look at that thing and be like, man, what if?
I don't know. We should go ride it sometime.
That'd be cool. Let's talk about a ride that absolutely gets talked about as something that would make a great RMC. And we know it'd make a good RMC because they've already done it before. We've seen Hurler get transformed into Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. They should do the same at Carowinds.
Yeah, so this one's like weird because they already have such a strong lineup, right, at Carowinds, that it's like probably not something that they're super concerned about. But like to me, I would say after Fury, the drop off is like decently sized. Like I like Copperhead Strike, I like Afterburn, but like Fury is just so high up there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the equivalent of like I-305 and Twisted Timbers. It'd be a similar 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the way I see it is Hurler is just a dud of a ride. Like
not interesting.
They keep retracking this thing, but you can't fix stupid. The ride's just stupid. It's not good. It doesn't even have airtime. The one at King's Dominion did. But that was also rougher. It's like this thing is kind of smooth-ish, but Carowinds deserves a better wooden coaster, and that's a whole nother conversation. I think they should do a wooden coaster somewhere else in the park and then RMC this thing. Can you imagine? I wouldn't want to leave that plaza.
No.
And the thing is that before the merge, I would have said that this is not super likely. Like I feel like Cedar Fair wouldn't be interested in doing this, but now that you have like Six Flags and Cedar Fair combining forces, I feel like this is not completely out of the question.
I don't know. I also worry because I know both companies have had issues with various rides from them.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it
I'm worried
happens.
yeah, it does happen. And you know, like there's some of them are prototypes.
Yep.
Obviously, there's going to be problems. I just worry if they're like, oh, you had issues, so did I. Okay, let's just not.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen.
The thing is, with this merge, like we don't know what is going to be the general consensus when it comes to new additions. And we're also talking long term with this list. So maybe they'll do this within the next couple of years, but maybe in like 5 to 10 years.
So this summer we visited a little park called Parque Warner in Madrid. And they have one of the best roller coasters on the planet with Gotham City Escape. However, that's kind of it as far as amazing roller coasters go.
The others are good, but they need another like really kick butt ride.
Yes, and Coaster Express is just begging for it.
Yeah, that's another one. I compare this to Jupiter, where you have this just massive wooden structure that it's like a canvas for a beautiful painting that RMC could create.
Wow, that was really beautiful.
It was beautiful. Pretty sure I stole that from one of the RMC guys who said that. I don't remember who, but I was like, wow, that's really true.
So this is like kind of a weird ride because it's got Intamin trains, like they look like El Toro. And then you have this huge like sprawling layout that does nothing.
And I feel like that's just the epitome of RCCA. That's who manufactured this thing.
AKA Son of Beast.
Yeah, exactly. They're not exactly known for some of their best creations. Magnus Colossus is another RCCA. So we just want to build up those structures into something much better. And if Parque Warner got an RMC,
that park would just be unstoppable.
That'd be so cool. I think that'd just be incredible.
What a great 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm. And talking about sucky wooden roller coasters at really good parks, Walibi Belgium has an amazing Intamin mega coaster with Conda. And like Parque Warner, after that, it's a bit of a drop-off. However, they have a wooden roller coaster that would make an excellent RMC, and that's Loop Guru, otherwise known as Werewolf.
Yeah, so I feel like this one might have been even higher on the list if it wasn't for Conda. Conda kind of saves it because it gives that park that standout ride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This ride is not good. It's a Vekoma Woody, and it's not... We
rode it once, and that was enough for me. I was like,
good.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I feel like this actually stands a decent chance because within the Walibi chain, they RMC'd Robin Hood to become Untamed at Walibi Holland. That was another Vekoma Woody. And that ride has just become immensely popular. If the Walibi parks are satisfied with that, which Walibi Holland is set to receive like an RMC Raptor. So
yes, they really like them.
They seem to like RMC. So like if that love gets passed within the chain, I feel like Walibi Belgium could eventually be like, you know what, let's redo this wind coaster. The only thing that I think is holding it back is it seems like Loop Guru is actually a decently popular ride.
Well, I think it might be the placement. Isn't it near the front of the park?
It is near the front, and people they're like, oh, wind coaster, let's go there first. And it's like, no, like, stop giving this ride attention. Like, go somewhere else. We need this ride to, like, suffer in numbers.
Didn't we joke about that? We're like, everyone protests that ride. Just don't ride it.
Yeah, if they see a drop in numbers, then they'll be like, maybe we could do something. But if people keep riding it, then maybe they'll be like, oh, well, we don't need to do anything to it. It's like, no, please, I'm begging you.
All right, next one is another ride that I am super qualified to talk about. And that is the Boss at Six Flags St. Louis.
Oh, how did you like that ride?
It sucked, apparently.
How would you know that?
Well, Matt donated his credit to me, remember?
Oh, when it was closed, when you went to ride it?
Yeah, it was closed when I went to ride it. So, but Matt hates it so much that he gave me the credit.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't have it anymore.
That's how that works. I feel like more so than any other ride on this list, when people talk about what rides do you want to see RMC, people say the Boss is Six Flags St. Louis. And it's because this thing is huge. There's so much potential. It's a terrain coaster. They have a lot of land that they can just really create some really cool elements and give Six Flags St. Louis that iconic coaster that they currently don't have. I like Mr. Freeze a lot, but in my opinion, that's not the ride. That is
it is right now.
A supporting ride. And if you RMC the Boss, that would become the ride of that park.
I feel like it could be another mean streak to steal vengeance scenario because of just sheer size.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could do some really cool stuff like what you said, it's a terrain coaster, apparently.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
No.
At our number 2 spot, we have another wind roller coaster that is just in dire need of some love, and that is Le Monster at La Ronde.
Yeah, I've never gotten off of something more so than this ride where I've just been like, why is this here?
Why does this exist?
There's one thing where it's like, okay, it's bad, it doesn't really do anything, but this was legitimately pointless.
Yeah, this is
don't get it.
This is a pathetic wooden coaster. Which is so dumb because the structure is huge. You walk up to it and you're like, wow, this is a big ride. And then you experience it and you're like, what was that?
Yeah, it's very promising to look at and the delivery is just zero.
Yeah. If I were in the position of the Six Flags and back when they were just RMCing after RMCing different rides, I feel like they had to at least consider this. But for one reason or another, it hasn't happened.
I don't think they care about La Ronde that much.
Is it attendance? It must be, right? La Ronde is kind of the butt of every, joke. People...
For you.
But even within the chain, it never received anything. They were going to receive the worst coaster in the Six Flags chain, which was Green Lantern and Magic Mountain. And they were going to send it to La Ronde. And then they said, nope, it's not even good enough for La Ronde. So
they're dumping
we're going to cancel it. That's how pathetic it is.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
They have great poutine, though.
Yeah. It is a meal, too.
Anyway, this would make a really, really good RMC. You could do a really cool dueling coaster, right?
Or even just combine it into one track. There's so much that you could do. There's options. I really hope that this happens one day. In my opinion, that's step 1 of turning this park around.
Last but not least, we have Bandit at Movie Park Germany.
I hate this ride so much.
It was awful.
Awful. That is a top 3 worst ride I've ever experienced.
With absolute certainty, I never want to do that again. Ever.
I don't blame you. And Movie Park Germany, again, has a lot of potential. Right now, their standout ride is Star Trek Operation Enterprise, which is
cool.
Mock multi-launch. It's fun. But if you were to RMC Bandit, you could just create this amazing creation that would by far be the best thing there. There isn't another RMC for several hours. It probably Untamed is the closest one. So
it's pretty far.
Yeah, you could do some really, really cool stuff with this thing.
I really liked that park though. I know people kind of crap on it all the time. I feel like I hear more negative than positive, but I didn't have that experience.
I had a great time at Movie Park Germany.
I liked it, yeah. And I think, the roller coasters was the most lacking point to me. I liked the Star Trek thing. I loved the Studio Tour.
Oh, that was incredible.
Roller coaster. But, those would both be great backups, to a huge RMC on one of the crappiest roller coasters ever made.
Yeah.
RCCA again,
another
baby.
RCCA.
Thank God they don't make stuff anymore.
I know. Yeah, they were not the best rides. That's for sure. I think that this ride might be in a similar situation as Loop Guru, where it is popular with the public for some reason. I don't know. Maybe people like getting beat up. They have an SLC in the same park. People must have a high tolerance for roughness there.
They're next to each other. They're literally next to each other.
Dude, that's a corner of the park that when it comes to rides, I'm I'm going to stay away. I'm good.
No, I'm good.
So, yeah, please, Movie Park Germany, if you're watching this.
Y'all deserve it. Spend a little on yourself. Treat yourself. myself.
Those are the 10 wooden roller coasters that we came up with. Let's do some honorable mentions.
So we're gonna start out with American Eagle, which everyone talks about how they want to see this thing RMC'd, but it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, well, and it seems like management really, really likes this ride, which I don't know. Like, you get the Great America like fan base that's like, man, that's the best ride in that park. And I don't know, I've ridden it several times. I've never thought it was that great.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really strong RMC. I don't think this is gonna happen. I think
like Goliath is already there. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like I think American Eagle is gonna stay wood. One ride that we mentioned when people talk about like wooden roller coasters in Spain that should be RMC'd. We weren't just talking about Coaster Express. Stampede also gets talked about at Portaventura. And this thing, I think, is fine. Like, it's good enough that
it's not crappy, though.
It doesn't need it. I'm not denying, though, that it wouldn't be awesome
It would
as
be,
an RMC.
but they already have a good lineup. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if Portaventura wanted an RMC, they also could go with a ground up, and I don't think that would really, like, take away from this ride.
Well, they got money, too, at that park, so.
Yeah, well, if it becomes Universal, well.
Oh. Another one is Outlaw at Adventureland, which is another one that's, like, fun, like it's fine, but it's nothing special. Yeah. Whereas adding, like RMC flair to it would make it very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, I don't see this as a super likely option. I feel like what is more likely is Adventureland adding like a Raptor. Mm-hmm. I could totally see that happening, and that's how they get their RMC fix. I don't think Adventureland needs it, but it would be cool.
Yeah, and like I said, like the coaster's not that bad. It has like some really cool, like almost like RMC-esque pre-lift stuff going on.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, you're like, oh, well that would work.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't need it. How about that?
Predator at Darien Lake would be on here, and I think for years people were like, that needs to be RMC, but they've been putting so much Titan track on that thing. It seems like they are very clear about this is gonna stay the way it is. Mm-hmm. Like, I think once the Titan track went on it, it's like, all right, we can kiss RMCing that thing goodbye. And last one we're going to talk about on this list is Hoosier Hurricane at Indiana Beach. You haven't experienced this one yet, but it's an out and back CCI, which sounds great and all, but it just doesn't really do anything. Like, the forces aren't very strong. Many of those airtime hills don't even give airtime. I don't see this getting RMC'd. But I do think it could be cool. And I'd rather they RMC this than Cornball. Cornball's actually really fun.
I was going to say, I would not be shocked if Indiana Beach worked with RMC someday.
But would they go Raptor?
I don't know. I'm saying I think they would work with RMC, though. But I don't know what they would do.
I think an RMC would be a great fit in Indiana Beach. Yeah. But there's just a couple different directions that they could go with it. And I think one of those options is Hoosier Hurricane. Yeah. But I think they've also spent some money retracking that the past couple of years. So again, like, maybe not quite as likely. Yeah. But those are at least the rides that we came up with.
If you think of anything else, like, let us know, because there's a lot of wooden roller coasters out there.
Yeah. I am excited to look back on this video in a couple years and see if any of these came true. Like, how close were we? Or were we really far off?
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been nearly as many RMC conversions. I mean, there's been this one.
Wildcat's Revenge.
That did happen. Yeah. But they've had a lot more, like, I mean, Air Force One in the same year was a ground up.
Yep. There's only so many wooden roller coasters left that they can really convert into this. Like, most of the wooden roller coasters that really needed it have been RMC'd. So, like, the ones that we picked out are kind of the ones that are remaining. But outside of the ones we talked about, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So they have to go to the ground ups next,
Yeah, and I think if you were to take a look at RMC's like wish list of what rides they could like get their hands on, I imagine it's pretty similar.
Yeah, but they don't really choose that. It's the park's decision, so...
But they can dream, just like us.
Yeah.
And all of you.
Absolutely.
We're dreamers all together.
And we're definitely not in the boat of, like, every ride needs to be RMC.
No, there's plenty of rides that I'm like, do not even think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want the ones that are not memorable or not good to be RMC'd. Yes. I feel like that, at the end of the day, is what's most important. Let us know down in the comments below what you think of this, and of course, stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios, and we'll see you next time.